tell her, you can tell her anything. She's a real good listener. You can tell her anything.
Yo, what's up? It's your girl, Father Longlegs. You know me, Daddy T. This is You Can Tell Me Anything, the podcast where comedians confess something they want to get off their chest. I'm so excited for my guest today. Oh my god, she is just newly engaged, and she's been on MSNBC. I don't know why I started with that, because I think that's like a huge credit, but she also has a ton of comedy credits. Very, very funny, is so smart. She has been on MSNBC, has a show called Red, White, and Who, and a podcast called The Bitchuation Pod, where they talk politics and news in a very funny way. It's Francesca Fiorentini. What's up?
Hey, Teresa, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Congratulations, by the way. I saw on Instagram, and so this is the first time we're talking since the engagement.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm super excited. I'm allowing myself to get excited. It is not my first marriage, so.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Did I?
This
no,
is.
Now I'm like, I feel like, have you talked about it on stage?
I don't think so. No, this is not my first marriage. The second time around, but he's never been married, so it's like you gotta let him, get his yayas out. And like, he's still excited about it. No, I'm super excited about it too. It's very cute, but it is, you definitely feel like when it's the second time around, you're like, will my friends even want to celebrate it with me?
No, of course they will. It'll be more, it's almost like second time. I mean, I don't know because I have yet to be proposed to, but I imagine the second time is more about the actual marriage and the wedding, which I think is a good thing. Because the first time you're probably like wanting to have the perfect wedding in the sense of like the event of it. And now it's like you want to be with this person, which I think is better.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not saying that it's not good.
Oh, no, that's like for sure my first marriage. Look, we were together for 9 years. I consider that a successful relationship. It was only a three-year marriage. But for sure we had been to so many weddings and we were like, I just want to have a party.
Yeah.
And you have to really separate in your mind when you're with somebody. Do you really want to have a party, or do you think this is like a very long-term, i.e. rest of your life situation?
Life together, or do you just want a fun open bar party?
Exactly. And I feel like those wires got crossed in our brains, but it was a very fun party. Sometimes I call it one of the most fun breakup parties I've ever had.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Like it was like celebrating your breakup. And I know that sounds morbid and sad. It actually wasn't. It was really fun.
Like you felt like it was already doomed by then. Not doomed, but like you were like, we're playing this out already by then.
I didn't feel like it was necessarily doomed, but I definitely felt like in a loving way, we may not be together forever.
Gotcha.
Wow. But we, like I remember the next morning. This is already launching into some good juicy.
No, this is good. And
stuff.
Also, I feel like unless you had another good confession in mind, like getting engaged, I feel like totally because for the listeners.
Does it count? Okay, good, because I don't have.
No, I mean I shouldn't have I should have let you say it, but I wanted to congratulate you. But you know this. The listeners know I start with a good confession as a way to get to know you, and we're getting to know each other. I mean,
and here
they're
we
getting
go.
to know you. I know you, but I think that's a great good confession. So.
Yeah. No, it's getting engaged, and then the first marriage and all that. But yeah, I think it's like, I remember the day after my first marriage, after the wedding in the morning, his parents were they're divorced. My parents are divorced, very much, lots of divorce in my family, and proud of it. And joining a rich legacy, but his parents fought at our wedding, and I was like, ugh, it was so gross. And so like the next morning we were just like, look, if this doesn't work out between us, let's not be shitty. And it was like this like hilarious agreement that also was a little bit telling, but it was very much like
you both had that thought but also respected each other.
Yeah, like I don't ever want to be that resentful, I think, in a relationship ever. I think that's a good goal in life, just never being resentful either of career stuff or in relationships. Whenever you feel resent encroaching in, that's when you know
I think
shit's bad.
That's a great outlook, because I think really holding any sort of negative feelings, and not in a way where it's like fleeting ones are okay, like processing, or I'm not on the opposite end of like positivity to the point of like, oh my gosh, she's gonna explode. But like holding on to resentment and like jealousy and things like that, that's really like you're the one holding that negative feeling. So in some way it's like it always comes back to on some level resenting like your own choices, or it's a reminder of why you feel not enough, which can be worked through. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I've felt that before, but I've like worked through forgiving people in a way where I on one end was like, I'll never forgive this person, but let me feel better, and then later been like, I actually want them to be well and neutral, and no longer hold anything about them in my head, not in a passive aggressive way.
This is taking up too much space. Well, I mean, I think, exactly. It takes up too much space, so much energy to be hateful, and resentful has another connotation of being like feeling stuck, and you're just like, ugh, like
they're like
that
the wall,
resentment.
but then really there's a way around it that has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, but it was great. It was a fun wedding. It was good. It was a good marriage, except it wasn't a good marriage, but it wasn't a good partnership, which is the foundation of any good marriage, I think. So super excited about round 2, and number 2 for me. And
sounds like you're a news anchor. Well, only because you're holding the microphone and like saying a quote, like a soundbite almost.
Like anyway,
it's
I'm like
fun.
interviewing
you're
myself.
Like
anyway,
I'm excited for round 2.
It definitely does sound like I'm like, I'm ready to go back in, coach.
Yeah,
like the first
you're like
round.
doing a press release, press junket for your engagement. No, I love that. That's a really great like mentality, because I think I've been watching The Wedding Coach because Jamie Lee's a stand-up host it on Netflix, and I was just curious. I don't like spend a lot of time thinking about weddings or marriage, but lately I think because it's like I'm in the demographic that it'll be marketed to, like it's been in my face, and also I want to support my friends, so then when I was like, oh, Jamie Lee has this show, I'll watch it. And I feel like the approach of like, instead of thinking of it as like that's the finish line, which is the old school way of thinking it, it's thinking like this is just a new beginning, and where every day you'll still be you with someone else and you'll have to grow. So it's like people forget that once you're married, it's not like that's it. It's like this is the beginning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I also think that that's a different. There's a weird fantasy that we have about one another when we're in a relationship, where we think once we get married, once we move across country, once we do this thing, once we get a house, once we get an apartment, once we get a dog, once we have a baby, there's a little bit of a future tripping of like the problems we have now, or the ways that you sort of irk me, or the ways that like you don't support me, all those things are going to be solved because it's all external. Like the externals, once the external stuff gets fixed, we're going to be good. And I think that happens a lot. It happens subconsciously. I think that's what in my relationship, I was very much like we were living abroad, and I was living in Argentina for many years, and I was like, look, as soon as we get to the United States, like, your art career is going to take off. He was like a visual artist, and it's like, oh no. He is not good at selling his art himself. He's not good at putting himself out there. Like he's not going to be a different person because he's in a different context. And so I think it's interesting that you're saying like it is the beginning, not a finish line. I mean, marriage to me has never been all that important. I think it's more just a commitment to one another. So I don't I don't
it's like you don't change. It should be a signifier of where you already are, not like we're gonna now go there and then
totally
and the
heteronormativity bullshit and the whole like rigmarole and all this, which is so funny because man, I was so resistant to like, I was like, I don't want bridesmaids, and like and so I suffered because you know what bridesmaids do? They help the bride. Like they help. That's what they do. It's not about matching dresses. It's about literally just getting help so you don't get too drunk at your own wedding like I did, and or like have someone to get ready with. You can have your girlfriends around, to get ready with, And I was like, oh my god, what the fuck? I'm an idiot. So there's a few things I would do over again. All to say, I think second time around will be more fun. But yeah, it's lots of good lessons from. I feel seasoned. I feel like a solid seasoned human,
That's good.
After
I feel that way with like fuckboy relationships, because when I was younger I had a lot of those, and I say fuckboy in a non-gendered way, like it applies to all, but like I feel like having really like run a lot of them to the end, like, you know, where you're like to the credits and then the after credit scene where it's like it was over and then I stayed and watched to see if there was any more. I like know like how they all go. Yeah, watch the blooper. It's pretty much all bloopers. None of them really succeeded. But then now I feel like I'm in a relationship now and it's healthy but it's so different from anything before, but it's a different feeling where you're like, I know, like, having done this, what it is now, and it's just being sure, and it's a different thing, which I think is really important, because then
that new feeling is actually like a really good feeling. It's like, oh, it's not, you know, this new comfort, this feeling like supported. I like that feeling. That doesn't mean, you know, you have to leave that feeling, you know, because it might be different than what you're used to. It's actually good.
Yeah, like, what's it like to not have to every day wake up and be like, how can I feel good enough for this person?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is honestly, like, I don't want to blame all the people I've been with, because I've also felt that way about myself. Like, I've looked in the mirror and, like, on some subconscious level, like, I wasn't aware enough to voice it, but it was like, I don't feel good enough for myself, and that was where that was being driven. Like, I need a partner, I need this, I need validation. And now I feel like, having worked on myself, it becomes easier to just be with someone because I can be with myself.
For sure. So deep, so real.
Oh, man. Well, that's actually a good transition into, I like to quickly touch on, because this podcast I started when I started going to therapy so late in life, because my family wasn't like really aware of it. And once I did, and that with comedy made me realize, like, oh, it's so nice to be able to just like talk and kind of parse things out, big or small. It doesn't have to be serious, but I really enjoyed just being able to like have a confidant. So I like to ask my guests, like, do you have a confidant? What's your like sort of ritual, you know, when you need to like get advice, or like do you go to therapy, or like what's your kind of routine?
Oh, I take it right to Twitter. No, let's see. Do I have a
great. So I mean, that's like
God, no. I'm
two birds in a what's the saying? Two birds in the hand? No,
one stone. Feeding two birds with one grain of rice. I don't know. Do they explode if they eat rice? I forget about that one.
My English as a second language comes out when I have to use idioms.
Yeah, no. Oh God, the idioms are so silly around the world. I would just love to translate idioms into English and just use weird ones from other. We should just idiom swap globally, and see if it all makes sense. Let's see. I do have like, because there's shit that you feel like is petty, and you're like, who am I gonna entrust with petty stuff? I think that's the hardest. I think big stuff you can, you know, have a moment and talk to like either your partner or like a girlfriend, but the right girlfriend. It can't just be, for me, anybody. I don't go to therapy now, but man, has it helped in my past. It very much has been influential and instrumental in my life. But then you're like, is my ass getting too big? Like, you have like a moment where you're like, should I, like, is everyone, you know, you want to like ask a stupid question, and then you have a certain set of friends who you know can engage you on petty. Yes, but yeah, I have like
I love that. Well, you're a Virgo, right? Did I remember that?
A Virgo,
right?
yeah.
Okay, that's right. I'm a Virgo moon, and it's like that side. I feel like I don't like to gossip for the sake of hurting people, but sometimes like you want people who see you and know where it's coming from. It's not gossip. It's like, I'm mad at this because they actually messed up and it's not cool. And you want a friend who knows that you're not talking, you know what I mean? Like, you're not talking shit. Yeah. You're just like, I need a vent. And yeah, there's a very specific moment of.
Totally. I think it's almost like I would trust strangers with deeper feelings than I would trust close friends, you know, then I would trust them with petty stuff. I trust close friends with the petty stuff because I know they know that's not like my heart and my reality, you know? Yeah. I don't want to like talk to a stranger about like, so, you know, our jeans, or like my jeans aren't fitting. I don't know, whatever, because I'm like obsessed with the fact that I've gained weight in quarantine. But like, I wouldn't talk to a random person about that because I don't want them to think I'm shallow.
Well, you almost it's like the routine of getting it out to your friends because you don't want to present that way. And right. in a way that's like you're accepting who you are. You're not hiding it. Because everyone has insecurities. So sometimes.
I don't know if it's healthy or less healthy, but yeah. So yeah, like a handful of friends. I'm definitely, again, with the Virgo stuff. I'm Virgo moon. I'm Virgo everything. I'm Virgo.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Right. That's why you're so organized and successful. I'm a Virgo fan. I feel like.
Thank you.
I feel like that's my most misunderstood placement is my Virgo moon. Because
What do you
I'm a
mean?
Scorpio sun, and people like have their thoughts about Scorpios in a way that's either like they hate or love, but at least that's like, okay, Scorpios are intense. And then with Virgos, it's always like, I feel like misunderstood because, it can be very like everything needs to be exactly the way it is, but not because of control, more because like, you did the research and you know what works.
Sure.
And you put the time in, so why not?
I mean, when we're perfect, how can we expect others to do the job we know will be done perfectly? It's very difficult, objectively perfect. No, yeah, it's a hard sign to be in a lot of ways. Exactly that. It takes me a long time to warm up to people and to invite them into a close friendship circle. So 1 or 2 girlfriends that I've had and known since college, and then another one since first grade. That's pretty much it. Those are my confidants.
That's great. I mean, that's all you need. Well, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we will get your confession. And we're back. Francesca. I said Fran, and I've never called you Fran. I think because your handle is written on here. But
speaking of like close confidants, Fran is like one of those earned. Like in my world, you earn the right to call me Fran after like 3 decades. Because then I'm like, fine, you can shorten it. But Fran is just such an ugly name. I'm like, oh God, Franny, Francesca, Cheska, anything but Fran.
I like Fran, but I feel like because I saw your handle. But also, well, did your parents call you Franny growing up, or was that more like us?
No. It was Francesca, weirdly. Or like, you there, child, small thing. Small
Girl
one
with
with
hair.
bangs.
I used to I wanted a nickname so bad, and then I feel like now I'm settled with going by Teresa, but people call me T sometimes. But I'm
a great name.
opposite, where people I like what people, because I've never been a pet name person, but I love it. I've like tried to call my boyfriend baby, and we both don't do that, and it's weird, but I'm like, I want this, and then we both will do it in a way where it's like almost comical. So, but I feel like calling someone by their real name, like full name, is more intimate. But I don't know. That's just because I don't use pet names. Like most people use nicknames, and then when I'm like, I'm gonna be serious, here's your full name.
I have like, I feel like in both relationships, my last 2, the one I'm in, the last one, my last marriage was, there's a lot of a sweet nickname that you say in a mean way. What is that? Like, why does that always happen? So my ex would call me like beautiful, but in Spanish, which is like linda. But he'd be sort of mad, so it'd be like Linda, like hi Linda, like so it'd be like mad sweet nickname. And then with Matt, my current boyfriend, fiance, he does like sweetie. He does oh sweetie. He'll be like sweetie.
They're like
you can't
trying
just
to like
leave
put
that
a little sugar on the salt,
Yeah. It's just so funny when like a nickname turns against you, and like or a pet name turns. You're like, why are you using this only in a context where you're mad at me? Or you're telling me not to like.
I never thought about it that way. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I can't
Look
complain
out.
then for not being called baby. No, I'm still gonna. It's gonna happen one day.
Oh, baby. Oh,
baby.
babe.
See, that would be okay. Like if someone was like, babe, I wouldn't mind that.
But hear that tone, Teresa. That babe.
Babe.
You won't want that.
It doesn't fit me, and that's why I don't even take myself seriously when I do it. But sometimes I'll like be like, hey baby, what do you want? And I'm like, okay, no, like, oh, but I want to be a baby girl. Okay, anyways, this is.
No, I think it could stick.
Well, speaking of this transition that doesn't exist, not being able to do things well.
No.
Francesca, is there anything you'd like to tell me?
Yes, this is the conceit of the podcast, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I've already shared a lot with you, but okay. Here's what I have to say. I one time, and this doesn't sound that crazy if you're living in Los Angeles, but I got Botox off of Groupon.
Oh, like, okay. I like that. It's like a lot to unpack there, because it's like in LA, it's like, yeah, nothing wrong. Like a lot of people go to Botox. Also, a lot of people use Groupon, but like most people don't go to Groupon for Botox. I think maybe I'm.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't.
Botox? And then, or were you looking for just random deals, or were you like, great deal, I can't pass up?
I was looking for neither. I was the
Okay, it found you.
I was the yes, I was the victim of peer pressure.
Okay.
A good friend of mine was like, who's also does like, who is works in news and hosting, and she was like, they're like, we got to do Botox now because like our foreheads move too much essentially, and like people can tell when I'm mad, and that's bad. No, and so she was basically like, it was kind of like a blood pact, but with Botox. Okay. It was like a Botox. It was like, you do it if I'll do it if you do it. Let's buy this thing on Groupon, almost as if to like blunt the intensity of it. And look, there's nothing wrong with Botox. However, I will say that you are injecting straight poison into your face, and for fucking what? Like what? Why? I don't think it is. I get that like people feel like they have to, but if we all just agreed that we didn't have to, then that would also be fine. Like what if we just didn't,
Yeah.
And it was low key traumatizing for me.
Had you ever done, so like, I mean, had you ever like gone, what was your like sort of beauty, like I mean, I imagine like when you're on the news, you're doing a lot more, things that you have to like when I used to be a performer, like dancer, I had to like have my nails done, all these things, and now like my natural self, I like don't ever have any of that stuff done. But you already in a routine of like sort of picking up all these habits, or it was just really like out of nowhere?
I was mostly in just a makeup routine of like, just put, have a makeup artist put makeup on you, but no, like nothing really intense. Get a facial once in a while.
For people who don't know you, that because you right now look so young, that it's like, I know that's like not just the point of Botox, but like to imagine like before when you I'm like, there's no way you needed Botox like ever.
No. Well, look, I have a very expressive forehead. It moves a lot, and I have like 5 or 6 wrinkles that sort of just like, rise up, and that is, I have like crazy eyebrows that make crazy movements, like they're very expressive. I have a fucking expressive face. I do stand-up comedy, and I feel like that's part of my thing.
That's great.
But I was like, maybe a little bit of something to like lessen the lines on the forehead would be good. And of course I go into this place, and it is like, I've never been in a beauty spa, which I don't know why they call it a spa, number one, right? Like no one's getting a massage. You're getting like,
not
injected.
At all.
It's not relaxing. There's like cucumber water, and you see like all these ladies in like chemical peels, and they're all just like one lady just like totally swollen and just like looking at me like, and it was very like Ghost of Christmas Future.
God. It's like well, I'm only referring to the movie version of like those heroin houses, because I'm sure it's not really
exactly
all
what
like
it was.
that. But yeah, in like the movie, in the movies,
it's like an
really
opium
extreme.
den.
You walk in, and there's like needles, and there's people in the corner like tripping.
Just get some. It's just a few units.
Oh my God.
Do the peel, man. That's exactly what. No, but it was very okay. So, but it was very clean. Obviously, it was it was very nice, and all the women at the front desk looked like just like taut Barbie faced women, and they were like, I was like, so I've got fairly masculine energy, so I was very like, what's up, like, hey, what like, so like, how often do you do this, and I'm just trying to be cool, but I'm like secretly really fucking scared. And the lady's like, well, when my husband can tell that I'm mad, I know I need to get another round.
Oh my God.
Like, honey, that sounds like you've got bigger problems than lines on your face. Holy shit. So anyway, and I also didn't know, so I think I forgot how much it was, but it was 30 units.
Okay, I have like literally no reference.
Okay, you've never done Botox?
No, but I have friends who do it, so I should know. This is why I realized I should have like learned more about it, and this is because I'm like, it's not even a thing where I think that it's good that I don't do it. Like, I'm not opposed to it.
No, but you need to be.
The budget. I just don't have the budget.
Totally, it's expensive. It's expensive, and you definitely need to be educated. It's a little bit like I don't I mean, it's good that I don't do coke, but I also wouldn't know how much to do if I ever did.
I still feel that way when I go to dispensaries, and I've gotten medical marijuana
Weed.
before.
Yeah.
Before it was like, now it's like legal everywhere, but like, well, not everywhere, but in California. We live in California, recording in California, FYI.
Yeah, New
Totally
York is
legal.
gonna be legal.
But like, every time I go in, I'm still like, they're like, what do you want to look at? I'm like, oh, that one. And how much? Just about this much. And I'll like just be like, how about enough for me to smoke every few days? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I have no idea. Like,
You're like,
how
I
much
wanna-
is what?
I want to not think about my career for an hour, but I also don't want to be too paranoid that I only think about my career for the next 5 hours as I'm coming down off of this high. Like, what is that? How many grams is that? How many grams is I feel creative without feeling sad? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to know. Same with Botox. 30 units, by the way, is a lot of units.
Oh, man.
It's a lot. And this woman was like, she comes.
So you just picked it, or did they like, do you bring reference photos, or you're like, here's what I want?
No, I don't know.
They're just like, all right, let's do it.
I just went, and so this woman takes
God.
me into the back room, and then she was just like, she had a thick Russian accent, and she was, like, we're going to do across forehead and then down a little, and I was like, okay, I guess, I don't know, should we do it all? And she like didn't even consult on how many units I should or shouldn't have. It was just like, now we're gonna throw 30 in your fucking forehead.
Oh. Does it hurt?
It did not hurt that much at all,
Oh,
the
gosh.
shots. But fucking, and so I left, and I was like, oh, this is fine. I feel totally fine. Like, I mean, I was really, really scared going in there. Everyone in the place kind of scared me. The lady who put them in my forehead scared me. And then I was like, oh, this is good. And I started walking. And then as I left the place, I could feel my forehead begin to freeze completely. And then I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
And so I'm not even joking. For 6 months, my forehead would not budge. It wouldn't move. My eyebrows were like, I looked like Nicolas Cage, just like crazy high eyebrows. And then nothing was moving here. It
Wait,
was
so
very-
like wherever you are when it gets injected is where it gets stuck. So if your eyebrows are raised, they get stuck raised. Is that
The
how that works?
problem is that it actually raises your eyebrows, and a lot of people like the way that looks because they want like a little lift, like a little arch.
Oh.
It gives you an arch
Gotcha.
because they'll like anyway, and it was so funny because I had to go and do a shoot. I went to Mexico of all places. I went to Guerrero, which is a place where there was 30 students who were killed and disappeared by or disappeared and most likely killed by the Mexican government. And it was like this really serious story. And I went with one of these producers, and he was like, there's something different about your face. And or like, you look different. And I was like, I got a haircut. I don't know. Nothing's different. And so all I'm saying is sometimes we make mistakes about beauty, and especially, and I like, it took me forever, and I got so mad. I went back. I was like, please, can you undo this? Can
Take
you,
it out.
Take it out. And they were like, no, we can't. We could try to put like
Oh
an
my God.
I don't know, some sort of light situation that like loosens up the forehead. But it was like, I felt like a superhero that could use their head to like block, like
Oh my god.
like bing, 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 bing.
That's
You know,
so
like it was like,
funny.
that's how hard it was.
Where was your friend in all this? You didn't go together?
We did not go together. She had already gotten hers. And I think she was just
From the same place? Like where they just
same place. I think she was just more comfortable with getting it. Maybe it wasn't her first time getting Botox, or maybe she was smart enough to be like, I just want a few units, or she like at least Googled it. My ass was like, I don't know. And or she's just used to not being like as crazy and expressive and weird and going like beep, 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 and making like funny faces like we do in stand up. But I
so
found
like
it
you're like talking about this serious story with the kids, and they're like, why does she look like she has no emotions at all?"
exactly. Her eyes are not moving whatsoever. She's not
I
consternated.
am so sad at this story.
But then you see it everywhere. Once you get it and you can see like what Botox face looks like, you kind of notice it everywhere
It
because
must
you
be
notice.
all over LA, I feel like.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dead-eyed dreamers who are just like
Dead-eyed dreamers.
who are just like I have no emotion, but everything down here is funny. Everything that I'm saying from my nose below is hilarious, but my nose up. Like I was watching Ellen today, and I'm like, oh yeah, this woman has a hella Botox, and look, here's what I've learned: you can get good jobs. Someone can do it right on your face, but there is a wrong way, and I learned the hard way that
Oh, man.
that was wrong. That 30 unit. It's more like 12, 10, 5.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what the standard. I mean, I'm sure there's no standard, but like at the time for you, what would have been better? But that's a lot.
was like-
wow.
This was like 6 years ago, so I'm 38. I'm 37. I'm gonna be
Damn, you
38.
look
I
so
always.
young.
I'm 37.
I'm
yeah.
literally like, I mean, I know that, I know that you're
Oh, I
not
should
20, but I'm
lie.
like, if you were like, I'm 23, I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool.
I really should lie. It's
don't
and it's
have to
funny. The
lie.
worst part about my age is that the internet was very curious about it. Like people Google my Francesca Fiorentini age all the time. There's an Italian voiceover actress who's 52 or something, so that always pops up. And then there's a bunch of like, I don't know. There's all these like
You
algorithmic
should just
bios
go
that
older.
are.
Say you're 52. I mean, that would
Oh, I
be
should say
like,
I'll be like, look, I'm
such a
I'm
flex.
65.
That'd be such a flex.
Well, because people are always like, "Oh my god, you look so good for your age," because they'll look it up and be like, "52, wow, you look so good," and I'm like, "Thank you," and also, no.
Damn. That's so funny. I mean, I feel like everything blends in. Well, especially we're talking about like LA and like everything to me from 20s on. And probably this is not good for the 22-year-olds, but honestly from 22 to like 38, I'm like, you're in maybe this is because like I'm like as an actor I'm like what
You're
do
right
you get
in the
sent
middle.
out for, yeah, so I'm like I'll just assume you're all kind of like me. But then when I think about 19-year-olds and how little they know about the world, I'm like, okay, you're in a different category, like you don't fit in with the 20-year-olds. But I don't know,
Also, the fact that like 30-year-old women consistently play like 16, 17-year-olds.
yeah, that could be it too.
In
Well,
film.
the other thing with like I don't I mean I without giving away anybody I know specifically who gets Botox, but not that they're ashamed, but when I first moved here I found, a lot more people I knew in entertainment were open about it as girls talking, and I was silly enough to have thought that like, oh, everyone just gets really hot when they move to LA. Like I thought that, and they were hot before, but like there's a glow up like of like you see your friends move from the East Coast to LA and you're like, whoa, they glowed up. And then I found out like, oh no, that's Botox. Like
Yeah.
it's like they turn 30 or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, they like the sunshine is really doing them wonders because their face looks like it's just different. It's like they were hot before,
I
but it's
feel
like
like
they
it's
passed
some-
a wall and they got younger. And it's like just Botox.
Yeah, it could be that. I don't think it looks that good. Once again, I think if we all just normalize the fact that when people talk, you get lines on your forehead because literally your face is moving and you're expressing yourself, then we could just drop it and not do it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again. I have not done it since, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again. If a job was like, yo, you got to take care of the lines on your forehead, I would be like, fuck you, but also I need the
Give me a
money.
better makeup artist. Yeah.
Exactly, or give me a better makeup artist. But yeah, I think I feel like other treatments might be more worth it, but once again, it's all money and it's just so much. And like it's so funny how we like Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians got really big when I was out of the country, and I came back and all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, here we are, now it's surgeries are in and this is what we do. And like I think they get heralded as like, oh, they established their own like beauty brands. Oh my God, they've done so well. And like between Kylie being a billionaire and Kim doing this and that, and you're like, yeah, they also like established, like Barbie was one thing. The Kardashians are this whole other
Yeah.
fucking new prototype for like patriarchal, sexist under like
Yeah,
body
they created
imagery.
their own, like they are the models who can just continue selling products off of themselves. That is wild that who was it Kylie or Kendall, who was listed as like a self-made billionaire? I'm like, self-made?
Yes.
What the fuck does that mean? Like, you're literally from the wealthiest family
Yeah.
in America.
We could name all of your surgeons, girl. We know, like,
Yeah.
they made you, they made your face.
It's wild because surgery was so looked down on in South Korea from America. Like I remember, I mean, it's still big there, but like I remember the way like my American friends would talk about. And I personally just like because I'm so insecure, I'm like, I try to stay away from all that stuff in general. But like, no, no shade if someone's confident wants to spend money on that. But like in South Korea, they were, giving, it was to the point where people were getting them as graduation gifts, and everyone was starting to pick the same nose, the same face, where people started literally looking the same. And I remember people in America kind of like making that a punchline. And I'm like, well, how come it's different? Like literally everyone's trying to look like the Kardashians. I don't know. Sounds
No,
biased.
it's become much more normalized here. But yeah, no, I remember South Korea is one of the biggest places for cosmetic surgery. Down in Argentina and Brazil, where I used to live, Buenos Aires, they like, I mean, it's like 10,000 to get a good boob job. Like not even that much. You know what I mean? You could do it. You could. There are people that do like vacation packages. Well, they'll go and they're like, yes, I went to Iguazu Falls and I went to Mendoza and I went to like, Patagonia and I went to Rio. Then I got my nose done and then I went backpacking and then I got my boobs done, because it's so cheap down there. But anyway, it is. Again, I'm a little bit like the dumb optimist in me is like, why don't we just all not, and then we don't have to no more, okay? Like,
I feel
why
like
don't we
with
just
boobs, I feel more like I used to really want boobs, and then I was like kind of taught by the anti-magazine, whatever standards to be like, don't do any plastic surgery. And then I've come back around to be like, you as an adult, like I'm now in my 30s, so it's like in your 30s, do whatever the fuck you want, as long as you're also prioritizing other things that are valuable to you, like your relationships and work ethic and stuff. But I do think it's different as a teenager because it can be very harmful. But I think as an adult, I'm like, go for it, because especially having like more friends who I mean, it's in a totally different way, but like I had heart surgery when I was a baby, and like now I have friends who've like have the same scar, and like we're like in a little Facebook group, and there's a lot of like confidence in taking ownership of wanting to make your body look like what you want it to, and also just liking what you already have. So it's like whichever way you go, I support. And I think to me, like, I don't shame anyone who gets plastic surgery if they have a balance of other things, because it's also like, I also on a totally in a different way, it's like I have trans friends who work all their life to finally get in the body they feel the most themselves in, and I'm like, that is way more, I like, to me, I'm like, I feel like that's something that's so beautiful. But then it's also not fair for me to shame someone if they have a true emotional feeling of like, oh, I really want this thing, and I have these values and I've worked hard. But I do think as a teenager, it gets dicey, because it's like, how do you really know who you are?
How do you? I mean, that's the thing. I think it's like,
and to be clear, I'm talking about boobs in that situation, not trans people. Teenagers.
Yeah, no,
sorry,
no,
I meant like as a teenager, if you're just going for beauty magazine standards, like I would hold off, let your body figure it out. But I think
boobs can come in late, is what we're saying. They can come in a little later. But yeah, it's definitely like, there, if you are just happier with your body that way, that's great. The problem is like, what's the balance between this is a social pressure situation and this is I'm gonna do this. The social pressure is so much that when I do this, I'm gonna feel like 10 times better, which I'm like, go, live that truth. If it's sad maybe that it has to be that way, but if you feel better about yourself that way, go get it. Like,
I see what you mean.
And if you have the money,
it's so hard to find that balance, because we're so overwhelmed with the images that it's like, when I bring up like trans identity, I don't mean to compare them at all, because they're so different. Like one is a aesthetic beauty standard, and one is like who you are at your core. But it did help me see like this line I was drawing, like in a sense, like this binary line I was drawing of like, oh, any work done equals like inferior because like you don't like yourself. And then coming around to like, you know what, it's kind of a conversation, and I feel like we still have a lot of corrective stuff to do when it comes to like not good beauty standards. But I no longer look down on all, like I don't blanketly discourage all work being done,
Sure. I think for me, it's more like, it feels a little political almost, just personally, where I'm like, this is a lot of money. Yeah. Also, I rail against patriarchy, beauty standards.
Like men aren't doing this shit, are they?
The fact that many men do not do this stuff. And like, then I'm going to turn around and sort of like, I don't know. I feel like embrace move the opposite way, you know?
Yeah.
And I think aging as women is like, it's just kind of like a fuck you to the system to like age and just be you and like, you know, make, you know, get some nice beauty products, whatever you want to do, you know, get that anti-wrinkle cream, get what you need to do to feel good, get your facials, etc. But like, I don't know, I'm gonna rage against this idea that we can't age with beauty and grace. Now I suddenly feel super old talking about this, but
No, I love that. I mean, I think that's my naivete coming out in that, like, I've been sheltered in comedy of being able to hide behind comedy, but like, I think as an actress in LA,
yeah.
like, you do start to feel, and my joke about getting older when I really don't have to worry about it yet. Like, even in my 20s, I was joking about it because you hear it, but it's kind of a self-defense thing because in comedy, we do accept more, you know, everybody of all different ages because it's like more about if you're funny or not. So I feel like there's a part of me that's like, oh, is there a part I'm not looking at it being afraid to age? Because I never really felt that insecurity, but I joke about being older as a way to like diffuse anybody who actually thinks I'm old, if that makes sense. And it's like, maybe I need to examine that. Like maybe a part of me is like afraid to not be accepted now that I'm not like young in my 20s or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, likewise for you, if you said you were 22, I'd be like, word.
There's a feeling like it's weird when I think back about being 22 because it's not about the look, you know, it's really like how I felt at 22 was like, there was a feeling of like, and I don't know because I was in New York. I don't know if it's like this in LA, but there was a feeling of like wanting to be seen older, but also enjoying how people reacted when they found out how young you were. Like not really realizing that they were reacting that way maybe for the wrong reasons, like especially when it comes to men, you know, like in my head I was like, oh, they think I'm so smart for my age, and now I'm like, oh no, they just heard you're young and think that's hot. And I'm like, no, like now knowing that I'm like, well, I don't want to be that. I want to be an old person who knows how to get around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was in New York at that age
people.
too, except I was in like a crazy activist community, not crazy, but you know, someone who's on the left and done a lot of organizing and had been in organizing spaces, like it was very different. Like don't even pay. I remember one of the best things was I was like getting ready to go out dancing on a Thursday or some shit at this great club I used to go to in New York, and some activist friends walked in on me as I was like singing to Britney Spears in the mirror, and I was like, oh God, I just got to drown myself because my activist worlds and my like wanting to go dance worlds are like colliding here. I'm not, you know, I have to be like a fucking hard ass anarchist, like revolutionary or whatever. I do, I really do, and revolutionaries can dance to Toxic any day. They should,
choose. Right? Because the idea of making change is to make global change, and I think we need the like extremists, not extremists in a negative way, but we need people who are like, this is my entire life, I don't party or whatever, if that's what they want, but also like it's good to have, you know, a balance. Like
no, it's never good to not party. That's the thing. Yeah. I think you're exactly right about multitudes. It's like people need to just relax. My other confession was maybe going to be about how hard it is to be on the left, because of how the standards that people hold you to. Speak of beauty standards is one thing generally in Hollywood, and then just like political standards and like personal standards of like you should look, sound, talk, be this way. It's hard.
Yeah.
So
that
but
happens
anywho.
on all sides, but I think what's difficult about the left, maybe what you're getting at, I'm not as public as you in terms of like in the news world, but is that there's an expectation that the left is accepting. So then when you feel it, it's almost like more constricting, because it's not like bold, like for a Fox News anchor to like break out of the pantyhose, it's like, oh, bravery. But for a leftist to be like, actually, I want to join a sorority and just like sing karaoke, it's like, what's wrong with you? Your priorities aren't in the right place. It's like, what? Because I want friends and to have fun? Isn't that what we're working for? For everyone to have that? Like, that's the point,
That's so
right?
true. That's so true. That's so true. When you said join a sorority, I was like, ugh, immediately. But you're right.
I was in one, but I was like that kind of, I was very much figuring, I mean, I was not out in college, so I was like all over trying to figure out my identity, and I compartmentalized everything. I was like very much sorority girl, and then I danced on a hip hop crew, and all parts of my life were like segmented, and I had different groups of friends.
But but yeah, and at the end of the day, kind of like the bridesmaids thing where I was like resistant to that because I thought it was patriarchal or I thought it was too traditional. sororities are just to get you friends. It is just having a built-in friend group at a really hard time in your life when you're like going to college or you're like going to a new place, and it's like, oh cool, I have a crew. Hell yeah. Most people don't have that, so it's like, you know,
Yeah, no,
my
there's
my
a lot of shitty things about how sororities used to be. I don't defend that at all, but I do think you're right. It's not blanket bad. And I've been
yeah.
seeing more. I don't know if this is true for all colleges because I definitely am on queer TikTok, but I've definitely been because I was in sorority, I think they market to me, but I definitely have seen more like TikTokers in that space who are like sororities, girls who also accept they're like not accept because that sounds like they're tolerating, but literally like a group of sorority girls, and then it's like when you know the non-binary sister walks in or whatever, and it's like when I walk in the club. So it's like it feels very different now, and I don't know if that's just what I'm seeing because it's marketed towards me, but I do feel like there's so much room for evolution within those like traditionally hetero sort of like homogenous spaces, and I think it's
these
great
Zoomers
if,
I mean, speaking of TikTok and the Zoomers, like, I mean, they're reshaping shit in a good way, I think and hope. So yeah, exactly. Whether it is the institution of marriage or the institution of a fucking sorority. But yeah, exactly. You should, yes, just being able to live with contradictions and like not really getting down on yourself. That being said, yes, Botox was a mistake for me, and we'll see if I come back around. I also feel like people do it when they're like 20, and you're like, you don't need that, and then you look like you have Botox face for the rest of your life.
I wonder if it's like a thing where if you start before you need it, then it's a compliment because then people are like, you don't need it. But then if you start when you're like about to need it, then it's like, okay. So it's like, if you know you're going to do it, people, because I feel like it's such an LA thing to be like, why is everyone doing this at 20? It's like, well, because then they can just stay 20 and never have to need it.
They've been told that it stops the aging process earlier and it's better. But to be honest with you, I see these chicks, man, and they look like they have surgery face, and you're like, they look older because here's the thing, it's like it's God, what's the analogy? But it's essentially when you start behaving like a woman who's in her 40s but at the age of 20, i.e., if you start getting Botox at the age of 20.
Yeah.
Which is generally like a 40-year-old thing to do, someone who's got a little bit more money, someone who does feel like they're aging, they want to do a little nip tuck with the neck or the face or the whatevs, like, then you're immediately starting to look old.
It's dressing for the role you want, or whatever they call that. Another idiom I said wrong, but dress for the job you want, but like the opposite way, where it's like, you were in a good job. Why are you dressing for this other job?
Right. I realize I'm being judgmental as shit about all that, and there is nothing old about 40, but I am based on
your own experience that sounded very traumatic, and it wasn't something that was right for you, and I think it's healthy to share that, especially for anyone who maybe feels like they want to do it for the wrong reasons, you know? Like if someone wants to do it because they feel pressured, it's good that they hear this story. Don't do it if you don't want to do it.
I am a cautionary tale. Your entire forehead will freeze up on you, and you won't be able. You think you're being sad and mad, but your face is saying, God, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with everything.
I can't believe that people don't want them to know when they're mad. I get annoyed when people laugh when I'm mad. I'm like, I'm not yelling at you just because I said a funny joke. That's my coping mechanism. Like, I'm still mad. Like, stop laughing. I'll like throw in jokes when I'm like fighting with my boyfriend sometimes. I mean, we don't fight a lot, but like it's when I'm communicating. That's really funny. I should call it. When I'm communicating my upset feelings, because that's how I process, is like I need to like process my feelings through humor. And then
you're like, crushing it even when you're angry. Yeah.
This Listen to my information. Oh my God. This is so fun. Do you have time for a quick game? I know we were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Quick. I know you host a podcast called The Bitchuation Room, which is a news comedy. How would you describe it? It's a news comedy. It's mostly news, but you're funny is how I would say, right?
Yeah, it's like it's going through the news, some deep political analysis at times, and with jokes and comedians.
Well researched and with your personality and humor. And so this has nothing to do with that, but I based it off of the Bitchuation title called Bitch, Fix, or Nix, which is loosely kind of like a fuck, marry, kill, but not. So this is because, okay, I tried to customize the game and I realized I'm like, this might not really be custom except for in the name. It's called Bitch, Fix, or Nix, and because you just got engaged and you are an expert on partnerships, both in the workplace and in your emotional, personal life, and a lot of the listeners may not be in that position. I'm going to list some things that are like relationship based, and it's like if you were on, it doesn't, not specifically your relationship, but like, let's say someone listening, like if you're on a date or whatever, and you find this out about your partner, like, is it something you would like bitch about, but like, put up with, or fix, like, okay, they need to change for me to stay in it, or nix, deal breaker.
Oh, love it. I love it. This is great.
Okay. It's kind of just loose fun. It's really,
So it's like,
really for the name. I just work backwards from the name.
Oh, I think it's a great name. And it actually works though.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Let's play, and we'll be the judge.
Okay, so the first one, you met this person you really like, but you go back to the place. You hate their sheets. Okay, so like, bitch, fix, or nix. Is this something that you're like, deal breaker? Like let's say it's like, traditional, like it's like you're an adult, but
like some 99-cent store shit where it's like this.
Like, let's say where it's not just not stylish, but let's say like, this is like the kind of like, oh, they're like navy blue from college that haven't changed it, or some shit like that.
Ooh, navy
like,
blue. Hating on navy blue. Yeah, no, navy.
Well, yeah, I don't know about, I say navy blue because that's like the generic one they always sell for college students, but you know what I mean? Like, though they're still living off of the free set they got or whatever from their parents.
Sure. I love the ones where I remember I got some crappy sheets at a 99-cent store, and it was like, oh, these are gonna light on fire by themselves. Like these are bad. I think that's a very much a bitch situation. I don't even think that's a fix or a nix. Definitely not nix the relationship. Probably not fix it, especially not right away. It depends on how scratchy it is and how bad it is. But either, I would just bitch about it and then slowly but surely, be like, wow, look at this sale on these amazing like Egyptian cotton sheets. They're so soft.
So it's like a bitch now, maybe fix later.
Exactly. Bitch now, fix later.
Yeah. So the fix, I think, let's clarify. Let's say fix, you can like bring it up with them. So that's like long term. If you're like in a relationship, is this something that like you would want to change down the road? Okay.
Now, if it's an air mattress, if you go home to an air mattress, which I have done that, and I did sleep with this person, and I don't think I should have. I think I should have just said, and this is what I'm saying, if anyone's out there, you go home, you're horny for this person, and they've got an air mattress, just leave. Just go home. Go home, rub it out, or whatevs. And
I couldn't agree more, not in a shallow way, but because I literally slept over at a guy's place that had a yoga mat for a bed, and I used to do a joke about it, but like we did date after that, and it didn't end well. And it's like, of course it didn't end well. Nobody starts that way, not because they, I have any shade against anyone who doesn't have the means, but they're obviously not in a place to take care of themselves, so they're not ready for a relationship. I'll just leave that there. Exactly. They're probably capable of growing at some point, just not at that time of their life. 100. Okay, you can't agree on the temperature set to thermostat. So this is probably more like you moving in with someone. Is this something you compromise on, or do you have to work it out?
This is currently my situation because I think that, these Angelinos have such thin skin and they always keep the heat up to like, it's got to be like 74 or 75. And you're like, Jesus, no, it's a 69-70 situation, in my opinion. Always 69, obviously nice. And no, I would 69. Yeah, keep it at 69. This is a compromise. You got to fix this. You got to decide what kind of household you're going to be. Are you going to be I'm going to unnecessarily jack up the heat bill household, or are you going to be I know couples that like get along on their stinginess and like, I'm just going to be cold and put a jacket on. I say, for me, you got to fix it. And yes, you should wear a sweatshirt inside, but no, you shouldn't have to feel like you need a jacket inside. Okay, a light sweatshirt, not a jacket.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to take off a jacket to go outside. Like, it definitely shouldn't be colder inside than outside.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so your partner's friend is problematic. So let's not say best friend. Let's say like it's a friend in their group, maybe like someone who's around sometimes. Like, do you bring it up? Bitch, fix, or nix?
It depends on how what they did, how close you are in your relationship, and if they're willing to bring it up to them. I think you fix it. You let your partner bring up to their problematic friend what the fuck is going on. I think I had a similar situation to this. And I was in it. I was like in the relationship, and they weren't that close, but he was like a predator basically.
Oh wow.
And I think, you need to have someone who's going to actually stand up to their friend and tell them what they're doing is not okay, and that they see them, and they're like, you need to fucking cut it out.
I think that's
Not be a creep.
well said. Yeah, because it's like if you wouldn't, it's hard. This was a hard one for me too, because I'm like, sometimes you're like, it's different when you're, I guess, getting married, because then you really are one person. But when or in the sense of like your friend groups,
one.
I mean, you're like living together and all that, but like, yeah, if it's someone I wouldn't be friends with myself, or I would cut a friendship off, but then I'm like hanging out with someone I used to be more like, oh, I'll excuse that. Like I'm sure they have their reasons. And now it's moving into my mature years, I'm like, why? If they want to be friends with them, I need to know why. Like, because
Sure.
it's like, is it a value-based thing, or are they just, if there's a good reason, then okay, I respect that. But if it's just because they don't want to end a thing, it's like, interesting.
Yeah, I think that also, like, it's a hard one, because I think if you communicate that you're not feeling safe or comfortable around this person, and they care about you, and you're like, cool, I don't want them over at the house. That's a negotiation. I think most partners might be like, that makes sense if you don't feel comfortable. And then, yeah, I don't know, either getting them to bring it up with them, or getting them to slowly like peel themselves out of that relationship, or like not invite that person around. But like there's telltale signs. If they're going to be sticking up for them, if they're like, but, then you have to start to like, then your mind starts to go, okay, well, maybe the relationship and this person is not as trustworthy as I thought.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. That's hard.
Yeah, it's a conversation, but there's red flags. Okay, I have two more. They follow a lot of Instagram models. Let's say like maybe like overly exhibitive, like nothing wrong with that in a shameful way, but I'm just like, if let's say they're like, single days, but then continue to do it. Is this something that's like, do you bring it up? Or are you just like, that's just how they are?
Oh, I'm the worst at this. I think it's so funny. This feels like the least, well, other than the sheets, this is not that big of a deal. But in my mind, I'd be like, ew, why do you need to do that? Why are you following this person? Gross. What am I not giving you? Why don't you follow me, and I'll be your Instagram model? Why don't you take hot pictures of me? Anyway, I would basically be like, yeah, no, this is a major problem. This is a major problem. We need to talk about this. I don't like that. No, I'm very much but maybe that's just me and how demanding I am in a relationship. You can look at
what you want
porn
if you don't ask for it, so that's good to ask for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you need it, obviously you can look at porn. That's not even a big deal. But like following a bunch of Instagram, that shit is just corny. That just feels corny to me.
I love it. Love it. Okay, I love the hard stance. Okay, here's the final one. Bitch, fix, or nix. They never say I love you, but show it in other ways. So let's say like
show it what?
In other ways. So let's say like, we don't know why, but maybe that's not their habit, or they weren't raised that way. So it's not that they don't, but like it's really like they don't say it. Is this something you're like, do you just put up with, or do you bring it up, or is it like, it's not gonna work?
No, that's a nix situation for me. That's another nix. I'm gonna have to. I used to date someone who was like, well, he like had this whole explanation about like, well, why, like, people say that they love one another, but like they don't really show it, and like, isn't it more important to show it, and like, don't just want to throw it around, and like it's more than a word, and like I was like in my early 20s, I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh my god, I'm like not being gaslit at all. Like it's totally just like
that's some grooming shit. That's like the lady doth protest too much here. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, well, babe, I think what you mean to say is, and no. Someone should say that they love you for sure. I don't know about what the time frame is on that, but I'll put a 10 months to a year. I'll put a 6 to 10 months on the I love you.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I think this is something I've learned through the hard way, but I think that it's something that if you need, you ask for it. And like, I would maybe fix if there's a deeper reason to it, but definitely not bitch. Like, I wouldn't just be like, well, that's how they are, and I'm just gonna feel not enough forever.
And yeah, no, you can't fix that. I also feel like it has to either be an in or out,
True.
yes or no. And because, actually the English language is so limited. Like in Spanish, they say like te quiero or te amo. And like te quiero is like I love you, like love ya. It's like a love ya. And then te amo is like I'm in love with you. I love you.
I like that.
And we need more of that. We need like two different phrases. It is like love ya and I love you, or I'm in love with you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. I like that. Okay, I'm going to switch my fix to nix. Okay, you've inspired me with your energy. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your story and for playing this game. I feel like I've
Thank
learned
you.
a lot more about you. And where can our followers, listeners find your stuff if they want to check out your comedy, your podcast, all of that? Anything you want to plug?
Oh yeah, just
now.
listen to the Bituation Room podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or watch it live on YouTube at Franny Fio is my handle. Franny Fio for everything. Follow me on all the places, especially if you're an Instagram model. Then we can talk about your Botox routine, and it'll be great.
Yeah, follow Franny and Franny at Franny Fio, and follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod, and follow me at Teresa Lee Bot on Instagram. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to You Can Tell Me Anything. You Can Tell Me Anything is a podcast on the Hoo Ha Ha Podcast Network. It is hosted and created by Teresa Lee. It's produced by Ashley McAtee, Audrey Pavar, Maggie Ruth Austin, Kari Assad, Ryan Middledorf. The theme song was written and performed by Cody Johnston, and the outro was written and performed by Shipwrecked Sailor. And that's it. Thank you so much. You can follow this podcast at Tell Me Anything Pod, and you can write with comments, questions, or just compliments to tellmeanythingpod@gmail.com.